I got a lot more time to put into it, but this kind of gives you the idea here. So when I bought this carburetor brand new, this is a 650 Demon, and I bought it for a 350 engine. And anyway, I have run 750s on 350s before in the past, but anyway, this was bought for a 350. Now it's technically too small for a 406. So anyway, what I'm trying to do is I'm getting rid of the choke horn on it. I've done this a few times through the years, but anyway, I'm trying to get a little bit more airflow down into the carburetor, maybe increase the CFM by just a little. Remember the old K&N stub stacks were supposed to give you more CFM because they smooth the transition to going down to the choke horn. I don't ever run chokes on my cars, so I removed it all anyway, but the idea is just instead of trying to draw through this straight down little opening, now it's kind of going to draw from all the way around like the race series carburetors that don't have the choke horn, you know. So basically just used a cutoff wheel and a grinder, which that cutoff wheel's for steel, and it, you know, that aluminum contaminates it, so you'll get a little bit and then it'll contaminate and stop cutting. So if you just whip it on some steel there, it cleans it off and then it'll cut some more. So I got the majority of it off there and then finished it up with a burr bit here and basically shaped it in that way. Now this burr bit is for aluminum. Don't use a regular burr bit like this on aluminum because it will coat that and contaminate it, and you'll play hell getting it out of there. So you have to use this style that's made for aluminum. But anyway, it just shrapnels it, as you can see in the dirt over here, but it makes quick work of it. You could actually probably cut the whole thing down, just grind the whole thing off with one of those, but doing it this way, it gets the biggest parts of it off. But anyway, I'll go through and I'll finish going through all the grades of paper. I'm just using some old scrap stuff I've got, but I'll end up going through here and then I'll use Mother's Mag aluminum polish and get it all shined up real nice. But anyway, you can kind of see the basic shape that I'm getting here, so it's going to help improve a little bit more air to get down into the engine. Alright guys, so I spent a little bit more time on it than I wanted to, but I got the choke horn completely milled off of it. I went in here and shaped all this, and you know, it has the correct shape or the look of the racing series carburetors that don't come with choke horns. In case some of you guys don't understand what I did here, this is a Holly, which is pretty much basically what this Demon is. Just a glorified Holly is all a Demon is. But this is called a choke horn or a choke tower. And you have your choke flap here that closes to cold start your car or whatever. Around here I don't need a choke, so I don't ever run chokes. I don't even hook them up. I don't need them. But what I'm trying to do is increase a little bit more air to get into the engine easier. I'm not going for horsepower. You know, people are going to argue it's only going to pull in what the, you know, throttle blades are going to let, and I agree with that. But looking at it in my perspective, because there are guys that say this does absolutely nothing. If it does nothing, then why do they sell carburetors without the choke towers in them? They're like a whole different casting, and they look just like this, the way I shaped that. But anyway, it seems to me when you have a air cleaner on top of the carburetor, it's usually, you know, your filter's going around. So your carburetor has to pull air from the side to go up to your choke tower and go 90 degrees to go in it. So I remember watching an old video a long time ago. I don't remember if it was on TV or if it was on a YouTube video, I don't remember. But this guy removed his choke plate, the steel plate right here, left the tower and got 3 horsepower on the dyno from removing the choke plate. So, I mean, that's interesting to think about. But anyway, it just seems to me it'd be harder for that engine. This is your primaries. This is what pulls in until you fully get into it and the 4-barrel's open, then it pulls back here. But if you think about it, if you got like a 14-inch air cleaner on there and it has to pull air from the side, it's going to go to that and then go down 90 degrees. If you've got this it's going to pull air to them primaries from all the way around easier. So whether it does nothing or not, I don't really care. But all I know is that is going to increase the CFM a little bit, and that's what I'm after. This is a 650 Demon, and I've got a 406 cubic inch small block, which really needs a 750, but I don't have the money, the $700, to go buy another Demon carburetor. So I'm going to use the one I have, and it should get me by. I'm not going for all-out racing and all that kind of crap, but you know, maybe in the future I might get a 750 and put it on there, and then put this on one of my old 350s that I'll have in something. But anyway, this is basically what I'm trying to do here. But that is a good before and after of what they kind of look like. That's just a big mass of crap, and your engine has to pull air down through this instead of just flowing in all the way around. So it's the reason I did it. Whether you agree with it or not, I don't really care. It's my car, and I did the work, so it doesn't really matter. But I am happy with it. It looks awesome. I could have went in here and did a little bit more finer sanding on it. I'm just not going to mess with it. You're never going to see it anyway when the air cleaner is on it. I have a really tall air cleaner. It's a factory 55 air cleaner that I've modified into a cold air induction system. But my air cleaner is very, very tall. So I'm definitely going to have a lot of area in there for that to pull air through. Because if you run a low profile air filter and you set that down on there, especially if you got a choke tower, you're going to, you know, it's going to have a hard time trying to pull air through that little bitty low area into the choke. But anyway, I just think it's going to work great. But it's definitely got to help. You know what I mean? So I'm going to try to get the carburetor back together today and get it on the car and get it back started. And then at that point, it's time to start tuning the carburetor. I've got to do the metering jets. I need to do the vacuum gauge to do the metering jets, but I've also got to figure out what my final vacuum reading is so I can choose the correct size power valve. It is very important on a Holley style carburetor with a power valve like this. That's the power valve, and they always have a number on them. 6.5, 5.5, 4.5. What you got to do is basically you read your highest vacuum reading on a vacuum gauge on your engine after it's up to temperature. Read your highest vacuum reading, and you cut that number in half, and that is what size power valve you put in there. So basically if you're getting 14 inches of vacuum, you want a 7.5 power valve. Don't worry about that 0.5. You add it to it. So, but you get what I'm saying. It's easy to do. If you're getting 12 inches of vacuum, you'd put a 6.5 in it because 6 is half of 12. So that's really just a cut and dry, easy way of going. Now, sometimes the incorrect size power valve can cause a light stumble, like you go to get on the throttle and it kind of bogs a little bit and then picks up. Choosing the correct power valve can fix that. Although you need to make sure your timing on your distributor is where it needs to be, because if you're a little light on your timing, that will also cause that stumble. A little bit of advance might help it. But anyway, that's pretty much how you choose the correct power valve. That's why I don't understand guys that think they're tuning Holley experts and they don't even own a vacuum gauge, and you can't correctly size your power valve without that. That is on Holley's website. Their DVD, tuning DVD that I have somewhere around here that I used a long time ago, and in a couple of the books that I have. It's that simple. But once you've got that power valve in there that's the size to your engine, and you still have a little bit of a stumble when you go to get in it, you probably just need to increase your squirter size. This is your squirter right here. They'll have a number stamped in them, like this one says 31, and it screws on right here. And like on a vacuum secondary, there's nothing here. It's just open. It looks like something's missing, but there's nothing goes there. But anyway, that is your squirter right there. So you could put on just a little bit bigger one and try it. And most of the time for me, it gets my stumble out or my bog. Holleys are, a lot of guys will get a Holley, pull it out of the box, throw it on the car, and they'll take it out for a test drive, and they stomp it to the floor and it bogs down. Then it picks up and goes like hell. And they're like, oh, it's a junk carburetor. You have to tune the carburetor to your engine needs. And every engine's different. So it's just little simple stuff like that. But it's always worked out for me. But Anyway, guys, that's just another one of the mods I'm doing there, the carburetor. Hopefully I'll get it back on there today, get it back started. I do have fouled plugs. They are toasted. So I noticed the car, last time I had it running in here, it's running a little bit on the rough side. And I pulled a spark plug and it is coated black. Alright guys, so I'm base setting up this Demon. I took it all apart so I could do this number, but also shave off the choke horn and all that stuff. Anyway, this is going to be my base tuning to put it on this engine. Anyway, here is something to note on a Demon. Now, the one thing that I like about the Demon is it has what's called idle ease. And that's this deal right here. And when the carburetor's together, you go down through the top in the middle where the carb stud goes with a flat blade thin screwdriver, and you turn this. This allows more air in during idle. If you're, you got a really rich condition at idle like I do, you can open this up and it allows more air to come into play to help clean the plugs up. Now this thing, I just put it on the car and ran it, and this was actually set up for something to idle above 1,000 RPM. There's two ways of setting up a Demon here, which you don't have to take the top and you don't have to take it apart. You just need to be able to turn it upside down. So obviously it has to be off the car, but it tells you on engines that idle below 1,000 RPM, you need to go in here and set the primary and secondary butterflies to how they say it here. Now my car is an automatic, and I usually, when I have a cam in something, I like to turn the idle down so that cam does its thing. I like to hear that cam, rumbling back there, so I always turn my idle down pretty far. So anyway, this thing was set up opposite. It was for something above 1,000 RPM. So very important that you have to do these base adjustments. It's pretty easy to adjust the primaries. You just use your idle screw. Your secondaries have an Allen wrench right here, which the instructions don't say that, but it takes an Allen wrench right here, and that's how you adjust your butterflies here. But it's very, easy to understand it, how to do it here. On the other page, it tells about the above 1,000 RPM. So anyway, it's pretty neat, but that's what I've always liked about the Demon, is you can clean up your idle a little bit with that idle ease circuit, but you do have to base set it before you put it on the car, which I did not do that. But I'm doing it now, in other words. This is pretty much what wiped out my spark plugs during cam break-in, because I just started the car, turned the idle up and let it go for 20 minutes. So now I cleaned the plugs up. I'm going to try that, but if I may have to put new plugs in it. But anyway, now I can go through and base tune everything, because the spark plugs are dirty, they're fouled up, carbon, fuel fouled, so the engine's not running that great, and you want the engine to be running pretty nice before you start your tuning process. So anyway, just wanted to run you guys through that, but that's just one thing about a Demon. I sure do like these carbs because of that, and they look better. Alright guys, now I remember a long time ago, like, I don't know, 20 years ago maybe. It was in a magazine, and it might have been a Street Rodder magazine, but they used to have these little home built or home tech tip things, and anyway, I always went through those and watched them or read them, I remember one of them saying that you could blast your spark plugs with baking soda, and it cleans them up like new. So I'm about to try that. So I've got a box of baking soda here, just the Great Value stuff, and I've got, this is actually a media blaster that I got at Harbor Freight, and I want to say this thing was like 10 bucks, but I got it years ago. But anyway, it is basically you can put sand in it or blast media or whatever. So I've got a little bit of baking soda in here, and I'm about to give this a try. The idea behind this, in my opinion, is baking soda is real fine, but it's not like a media, something bigger that can get lodged down inside there that could come out in your engine. So I'm going to give this a try. Now, got a little bit of oil on that spark plug, and the reason is that's a brand new engine, so you know it's going to have a little stuff coming through. So I'm going to blast this real quick with a shot of carb cleaner to kind of get off the oily residue, spray it off, and when it dries I'm going to blast it and we'll see what it looks like. But these are pretty fuel fouled already from me breaking the cam in for 20 minutes, so you know, these plugs are pretty expensive, so I'm trying to save a little money. Well, let's see what happens. So I'll stick that up there. That's after carb cleaning it and then blowing it out. It's still got a lot of oily residue in it. So now, well, if this works, this would be awesome. Doesn't really hurt that bad when you hit your fingers with it. Wow. I'm already impressed. So that's the difference. Looks like it might have actually done the trick. Well, I got them all blasted. So I'm really kind of surprised that it did a good a job as it did. But the thing about the baking soda is it's not, you know, big pieces, so it doesn't get lodged down inside there to come loosen the engine. But I was looking at these with my magnifying glass, and there's nothing in there, and it's really clean down inside the plug. So I don't know why the electrode is black. I even run one of them on the wire wheel over there for just a second, and it didn't change it at all. But when they were new, that had that gold anodizing on it. But I think it's worth a try. So pretty strange. I was taught back in the day when I was young that you can't clean up a fuel fouled plug, but and it may be true, but I thought I'd give it a shot. You know, my mom had an extra box of baking soda, so it didn't really cost me anything. I already had the little blast gun, so all I know is the car wasn't running that great, and the plugs were pretty coated, so I'll see how it runs this time.